Welcome to Her Story of Success, a podcast featuring stories from influential women trailblazers and business leaders who have defined and pursued their own versions of success and fulfillment. We hope these stories, lessons learned, and celebrations inspire you to believe in yourself and enjoy your own journey a little more. I'm Leah Glover-Hayes, your host and CEO of Her Story of Success Women's Business Collective. On today's show, I have the honor of interviewing Kathy Thomas, my friend. She is the owner of Kathy Thomas Photography, a global brand that shoots celebrity and luxury weddings, corporate events, and family portraits. But I got to know Kathy because she's also the founder of Collective 615, Nashville's first co-working space for women. If you follow us on the socials, you know how much I love Collective 615. It's a beautiful space that's filled with fellow creative women business owners and an incredible energy that is both get shit done and enjoy the journey. It's a place to work that's not your home, so you can get things done and have interaction with other women going through some of the same struggles that provide resources, inspiration, and my favorite, collaboration. Kathy has an incredible career journey, starting in retail and working her way up to the corporate offices of brands like Louis Vuitton. She is an expert at taking calculated risks, from starting her photography business to building a new kind of co-working space when she had no experience in either industry. As you listen to our conversation, I encourage you to think of someone that you could share this with that needs to believe in herself just a little bit more. Welcome, Kathy Thomas, to Her Story of Success. We are excited to have you today.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you to your audience for tuning in.
Absolutely. So you and I have known each other for only a few months, but it feels like a few years because as soon as I met you, I fell in love with you and just who you are as a person and your hustle and the way that you work. And so for our woman listening, who is Kathy Thomas? Because you have a couple of businesses. So I want to share the vastness of who you are as a businesswoman.
I own a global photography brand, so it's Kathy Thomas Photography, based out of here in Orlando, Florida. Mainly, we do weddings, corporate events when corporate events were a thing, yes. And a lot of family, kids, kind of the works. We're photographers first and foremost, and then we happen to just specialize in weddings. So I have that brand with a team of powerful and talented photographers behind me. And then I opened up Collective 615 this year, which is Tennessee and Nashville's actually first co-working space for women.
Which is amazing. And that's how I came to know you. And I do want to dive in because what we're going to do is I want to talk a little bit about where you are today and then really like how did you get there and what did that storyline look like, because I'm impressed with your background. So I want to share that with other people. But let's talk a little bit about Collective 615 because that's where I came into the story, and I want to share with the listener what it is and I think why it's important. So Collective 615 to me is this beautiful, magical place. It's a co-working space for women, but I love that every detail was thought through. You have all the things that you need in a co-working space, but it's also this beautiful, welcoming environment that you can just feel like safe and at home. And I don't use that word home lightly because I think it's a level of comfortability, but it's also beautiful. And I'm one of those people, like, I like things to be pretty. I have flowers on my desk. I have a candle lit. But just tell us a little bit about why did you create Collective 615 and maybe what was the need that you saw that you were fulfilling?
Oh my goodness, thank you. Those are such good compliments, by the way. And you're right. By the way, I just want to address, like you say, home. And I mean, it is a dangerous term because our whole point is getting women out of their home so they're not mixing home life with workspace. And that's, you're going to hear me talk about that a lot because I was delusional when I left corporate America, thinking working from home was like a benefit and a privilege. And it's really a burden. Why Collective 615? You know what? I think here's what played out in my life is I left on this, a corporate job with a luxury retail brand. And I thought, I'm going to go work for myself. And it wasn't, I'd had a daughter. So some people kind of in my field would some traditionally go, oh, well, I want to work from home so I have more time with my kids. By the way, That's also delusional because if you are starting a brand and you're going to work from home for more time with your family, you're going to spend a lot more time in your business. So plug into your friends who have done the journey and like learn from them. So I kind of thought that though too, like at least if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to be the one who allows me time off. I want to own my time. And I also wanted to leave a legacy for my daughter. I am a workaholic. There's no secret behind that. Like people know it. So I thought if I work this hard, I want to do it for myself. And I knew that was even going to be more hard, but I again, a workaholic, and I'm not afraid of like people sometimes think the word hustle is a bad word, but I really feel like we're all hustling in life in one way or another, whether, and it just plays out differently in everyone's story. So when I went to go work from home, it was amazing at first. I had a pool and I would go eat lunch out by my pool and lay out for a minute. And then like the structure started changing and I was responsible for my own schedule and I started losing structure and discipline. And then I started missing that. I don't know if I can really explain that feeling, but when I always equate it to this, when you're at the gym and you're on the treadmill and you just don't want to be on the treadmill. Yes. And you're like, oh, if I have to go one more step, but then someone gets on the treadmill beside you. And for me, it's always like someone older and more fit. And I'm like, girl, hell no. Years. And they're just like, and you're like, wait a minute, she's got me by a few years. And if she's on it, then I'm going to stay. And then you get into their pace and you forget why you wanted to get off. Does that make sense?
Yes. And that makes you want to go harder. I love that.
So when that happened, I started missing community. And I am an extrovert, and I realize a lot of photographers are not. They're usually introverts. But I really started missing community. I missed having someone to help pace myself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And though
just pace yourself against too.
Yeah. But even just a sounding board, someone where I'm like, hey, does this make sense? Like when you're in an office, you're like, hey, does this make sense? And you've been sitting on it for about 15 minutes too long. And someone goes, absolutely. And it's all you needed to move on to the next. I really miss that. So other things that had kind of taken place, and I'll kind of be quick with it, but I was the person, of course, I set up my office in my dining room because I had a formal dining room and no one really dines in a formal dining room. So that was my office. And it was in a separate space, which was nice, but between the kitchen and the front door. And I'd go make lunch and I'd leave my stuff for lunch out because I'd be like, oh, I need to get back to an email or I need to get back to a call and I'll do that later. Or I'll do laundry and I'll do that later. And at the end of the day, I was just doing a lot of housework that I didn't do throughout the day. And things were backpiling. And I just felt like I started failing at like being a mom per se and like having a home and all this stuff. And I was like, well, this is not a good feeling. Like my daughter would say, Mom, you're always on the computer. And I'm like, but I'm not. But if I was making dinner and I was like, oh, I need to check an email real quick. I'd go check an email. And so I was always constantly attached to that office right next to a room. So quickly afterwards, I was like, I can't do this. I need to hold myself responsible. And, I wanted to get out of my yoga pants. Like some people love that. But like, I was excited to be like, I want to wear hot pink and my electric green earrings today. Like I love that sense of showing up for yourself. Yeah, I just love that. Believe me. And I am one who will easily stay in pajamas the entire day. So don't get that wrong. But I just miss showing up. And maybe it's because I came from fashion. And so I quickly moved into a space with like 5 other people. So that was my first co-working experience, was in a little small house in a little business district with 5 people. And I thrived. I not only from business to business referrals, but it was, I was building my business. There's a lot I didn't know. And I was with other seasoned people that I could ask them questions like, hey, do you pay for this tax? Or do you have a lawyer that I can talk to? Or do you know where I can get this document? And so I was getting results just like this. Like you can Google it all, but honestly,
absolutely.
In a world where there is such, I'm going to call it, there's so much noise.
Yes.
And you could buy $79.99 workshop templates, everything. Sometimes it's so much that you don't really lean into it because you're just overwhelmed. So I did that soon after. I was there for about 4 years. I tried purchasing that place because I just love the concept.
Yeah.
That didn't work out. So I ended up moving into a community space, much like the L&L marketplace where Collective 615 exists. And when that happened, that opened up the doors to a broad spectrum of opportunity because now I wasn't only amongst 5 individuals that were in my industry. I was in an entire building with publishers, other photographers, real estate developers, catering companies, restaurants, wine bars. Like this whole experience opened up, and it was very much a marketplace. But the other thing that made it better for me from a life standpoint is my life started to get better personally too.
Ooh,
So
yeah. Because you were able to go somewhere and like, I'm working, and then you come home, like Stella, your daughter, Stella knows like mom's home and she's hanging out with me
100%.
or doing dinner.
But even like my husband, he'd be like, hey, I'm like, I have to work late, but why don't you meet me here and we'll go to dinner downstairs and have a date at the end of it. Like, so it started making me better. If my friends had a birthday, when I started my own business, like I used to be the best gifter of friends. And then it started to be like, I'm in the driveway for the birthday party and I'm like ordering on Amazon to have something shipped the next day.
I've done that so many times.
I hope a lot of people can relate to that, because I used to like be so well thought out about gifting. And this also changed it. Like I'd be able to walk downstairs and grab a great plant and grab a nice gift and leave for the day and then show up at an event with something because it was in the same building.
Yeah. And I love where you put L&L, because, as a woman business owner, we are all so busy, and I hate that word busy. But when I think about it, I love that there's a yoga studio. There is a place to get your hair done. There's a place to get your nails done. Across the street is Happily Gray and Living with Landon, and there's Made in Tennessee, and there's this popcorn bar, $5 donuts, which I get every time I go. We need to talk about that.
And there's free parking.
So I think that, when you think about making someone's life better, and I believe that's what you're doing, you're making it where it's easier for them to do things. I have already, like, as I was working at Collective 615 and realized, oh my gosh, I've got to get a gift, and literally walked across the street, bought a pair of earrings, she wrapped them up, and I had that, and I could go, and I took donuts. And it's like, wow, it's not just that I have this co-working space in this area, but I feel like the whole area is about helping women enjoy it, be better and enjoy it. It's a beautiful space. There's something about this beautiful space. So let's talk a little bit about how you got here, because like you said, you started in luxury. So let's talk about what your career looked like before you decided to jump to pursue your dreams, because you went on like a 180, like you did something totally different. So I'm kind of excited to share that a little bit. So what did your career path kind of look like before you started Kathy Thomas Photography?
So I had the same career path, so I knew what I was supposed to do. It's not like what I went to school for. It's not what I thought. But I started working in retail with the Gap at a 20-something-year-old. I loved the flexibility. I loved managing people. I loved the responsibility. I loved obviously being able to buy clothes at a discount, like who doesn't? Whoop, whoop. And then it transpired. Anyone that says that's not the reason they work in retail is, and everyone says I fell into retail. And I mean, I also did, but I also chose it. And I chose it in a time where I thought I was going to always be in like broadcast and communication. And
is that what you went to school for?
It is. Yeah. But I didn't graduate. This is a big secret that a lot of people don't know. I left my senior year. So, so I was doing broadcasting communication, and I just had to supplement my income. And I went into retail, and I loved it. Again, I love the staff. I love the training, the development, the talent acquisition. I loved all of it. And so I started with the Gap. I then transitioned from the Gap. I went to work for Lucky Brand Jeans, which was like a dream job because I grew up like the fly, it says Lucky.
Oh yeah.
And I grew up on like the Story brand of Lucky Brand. I loved it. So I went to work for them. Shortly after being with them, they moved me to the Northeast, to Philly, to run the Mid-Atlantic.
Oh, wow.
I was young. I was 25, 26. And so I was running the part of the East Coast for them. I loved that role. I loved having different territories, understanding the different markets, understanding the different employees in those markets, the clientele. Shortly after that, then they moved me to Manhattan, and I covered the East Coast for them. So I had the stores up and down the East Coast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I loved it. Again, more stores, more responsibility. I loved driving gross margins. Like everything was just really in my wheelhouse. And I truly, through working for Lucky Brand, became an expert in the field of multi-store retail. Worked for them for a long time, and I loved it. It's one of those things where you never thought you'd leave. And we still joke like those were the good days, because we still, even though it was under Liz Inc., we were open Juicy Couture, Kate Spade was opening at the time. We're all in the same, under the same umbrella, which was amazing. and I was in Manhattan, right? The corporate office. Like, so there's just so much activity. We still had a strong affiliation with the owners. And then, I decided, I don't even know, like the crossroads. It was a very hard decision. I think I cried for a week when I left Lucky Brand. And I went for an interim. I did operations for a luxury brand called Intermix. And it was still when it was held by private owners. And I found out that I did not belong behind a desk for 50 hours a week. I was like, yeah. So I went into operations for North America and I sat behind a desk and I was like, oh yeah, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And so I made a big jump and I went to work for Louis Vuitton. And covering their stores in Manhattan, Saks, Macy's. And I loved it.
What do you think you learned the most from, I mean, you started at 20 something, and then, you know, before you start your own company, you're working for Louis Vuitton, one of like the, you know, most iconic luxury brands.
Yep.
There is, when you look at like all of those lessons that you've learned, what are the things that you think were the most important that maybe you took with you into your own business?
I would say from Lucky Brand jeans, I took the sense of camaraderie and talent acquisition for sure. Like surround yourself with the best, hire up. I think that's one of the biggest ones. I do that in my photography.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean when you say hire up? What's that mean?
Hire up is like hire someone that you feel is more qualified than you.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, you know, and it's not, so we talk about imposter syndrome a lot. So it's not in that kind of wheelhouse. It's
Right.
more in like, you know what, I know where my strengths are. I know where my opportunities are. And a lot of our opportunities, we can work on them, but you really can't change them.
Right.
And so for me, it was really like, how do I create a balance and always have a balance in my life, but also have people around me that push me and make me uncomfortable on a regular basis. And it's not always a good thing. I'll be honest. Like it is a way to live really uncomfortably, but you tend to get really phenomenal results and the reward is worth the discomfort. So I did that a lot with Lucky Brand. I was also put in a lot of very challenging positions at a young age where majority of my team was older than me. And then, so I would say that was my biggest one. And then with Louis Vuitton was culture, you know, brand integrity and culture was really, really big. And I often joke about smoke and mirrors. Like it could be falling apart in the back of house. It could be putting out fires, burning your computer monitor. You know, oh yeah, we're not supposed to
I did that today.
But you can have all these things going on, but you know, if you really have the front of house zipped up and the experience is happening for others, like you can handle all of that when the front of house is all pulled together.
Like I love that. And I feel like I can see where you've done some of those through Collective 615, right? Because it's not just about making something beautiful. I feel like you do have such a good foundation. And there's this like confidence when you walk in that area that you guys might, I don't know, you might be dealing with stuff on the backside, but you don't make anybody that walks in that door feel it.
I would say that's the biggest thing I took from them. And then another thing I took from them, which I think was the biggest thing that drove me to leave and start a photography brand when I was untrained, never been a photographer before, never shot really a camera, didn't know all the programs and systems, didn't know about creating a business model. I know how to run a business for someone else and implement their practices and hold people and adhere to them and hold them accountable, but I didn't know how to do it myself. One of the things that Louis Vuitton taught me was you don't have to have it all together to be the best. I mean, there's like some shock factors. Like when I started with Louis Vuitton in 2006, 7, leading into a recession, they didn't have a clientele program in 2007. So I rolled out the clientele book, like actually physically created, established it, put it together, a clientele book that did not exist. And I only knew that from my previous career. So I also implemented their supply chain. So they didn't have a supply chain system. Every manager just ordered from Staples on their own accord. So I implemented a supply chain, one source, DDS, shippers, supplier, deliver. Because I love problem solving. That's my thing. And I always love going, wait, where's the void? And how do we fix that? And hopefully it can save people money, but also make life just better for people. So those are a lot of the things I took away from both of those places. Those were my two longest stints with Lucky Brand, James, and Louis Vuitton. And that's really what I took. But I think one of the biggest things, what I learned at Louis Vuitton, and it's so funny because I never really talk about Louis Vuitton. I always leave it as just like a luxury brand, was that you can create a great experience for people, and that will trump all of your shortcomings. And that helped me go, you know what, I'm going to be scared shitless to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. You know I want to give amazing customer service and just wow my clients at all times, and create a good environment for them. All the rest I can figure out.
Right.
And so I ran. I mean, and believe me,
I love it.
I am very driven by fear. Like, people are like, oh, you're so confident, but it's really more like fear drives me. Like, it's kind of like the fuel, the fire for me.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So when you say that you live in fear, or you operate in fear, I think that's what we talked about offline. What does that look like for you? Because I want the person listening to maybe hear what that looks like from you, and then I might talk a little bit about what it means for me, because it's powerful, right? Fear is powerful because it can stop somebody from doing something, or it can propel you forward, or when you move past it, there's power in like overcoming that. So what does that maybe look like as you were starting Kathy Thomas Photography, and or what that looked like when you were starting Collective 615? Because both of them, you didn't have any experience in either one of these before you started those businesses.
So, it's one of two things. So I kind of have a big belief that like, I've never, like, my friends and people in my inner circle will always say like, you don't fail at anything. But also,
you don't
when
what?
you speak about that fear, I don't fail at anything.
Fail. Okay.
I keep a big safety net though, which people don't see. I have a ginormous safety net. I also don't try things I think I might fail at. I don't ski. I don't think I'm going to be good at that. I proved that my senior year of high school. I don't play basketball. So like things that I'm like, I'm not so sure that's in my wheelhouse, I will not try. But things where I look at myself and I'm like, okay, I'm healthy, I'm capable, I'm smart. I think I can do that. Like, I think I can try that. Yeah. I might not be the best at it, but like, I'm willing to give it a shot. I live with kind of that motto very heavily.
Yeah.
I also kind of look at people and I say like, Leah, you know what? You were in HR, you worked for a corporation. You probably didn't know a lot about podcasts before you started in it, but you had Google. You had a phone, you could call somebody, you can email someone, you followed the trends, you can follow people that are that you feel are crushing it at it from the outside, and you figure it out. Like, I think that's the biggest thing is like, we get so paralyzed by fear. Yeah. And believe me, there's times I'm paralyzed by fear. Absolutely. Having a second child, like I was so scared to have a second child. I didn't. And I kind of have a little regret of doing it, but I was scared to see what kind of mom I would be with two kids. I love who I am with one.
Oh, wow.
I really love who I am with one, but I was scared that two would not make me the mom I wanted to be. Like, it would push me to get angry, and I'm not an angry person. It would make me have a short fuse. I'm not a short fuse person. But there was highlights I've seen in people where I'm like, that's because you have two. And also, when we had our child.
Maybe they're just angry.
Maybe they're just angry. And plus I have, I feel like God gave us Stella and she is so perfect for us. I don't know if I want to see what option 2 looks like. And I'm nothing like my siblings. So
you're hilarious.
I got one shot and it was a good one, and I'm going to just keep that. But it was really fear. It was
that kept you from having another child. Wow, I would have never known that about you. Let's talk a little bit about what that, you said you operate with a safety net, and I kind of feel the same way. What does the safety net, when you started Kathy Thomas Photography, what did the safety net look like? Do you mean just financially, or like with your support system? Like, what does that look like for you?
I think it shows up in a lot of different ways. So my safety net is, okay, if this fails, I can go back to retail.
Yep.
I left at the peak of my career. When I left, people thought it was not true. They're like, no, wait, where are you going? I was like, I'm going to be a photographer. They're like, no, you're not. Who's recruiting you? Where are you going? I was like, no, I'm going to be a photographer. And they're like, we've never even seen you do. I mean, seen you point and shoot, but like, do you even know how to do photography? I'm like, no, but I'm going to learn because I have this passion, and I don't want to live my life going back and going, Why didn't I give that a try? Here's the thing, what I realized a little bit later on, after being with Lucky Brand Jeans and thinking I would stay with them forever, until I realized I worked for people, not companies. And the people I worked for at Lucky Brand left. Okay. And then going to Louis Vuitton, I really thought I would die with Louis Vuitton. And so what I realized was that I didn't know either one of those things when I joined them. So I was like, why can't I train myself to do this? And I'd watched a big photographer shoot a huge campaign. And I was so excited and so nervous and so like intrigued. And then I watched her shoot and I was like, oh, well, I can do that. Like there was no magic rabbit coming out of a hat.
Right.
So the safety net is like, I could always go, like, I'm one of those people, if I fail at this, and not saying this is not a job of integrity, but like I could go be a barista at Starbucks. There is nothing in me that is too proud to say, if I have to support my family, and I am the number one financial support for my family, my husband obviously has a career. It's just, I afford our lifestyle, Stella's education, all of that, our retirement. I am not too proud to say, well, there's something else I could do right now.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. One of the people that's mentors me, he doesn't know it, but I listen to him. Tim Ferriss, it was actually something that affected me and my husband, is that, he always talks about what is the worst thing that could happen and take that all the way through. Like when you were leaving Louis Vuitton, like what is the worst thing that happened? Okay, awesome. You fail at being a photographer. Great. You can go get another job. You can go back to, and that's what Josh and I talk about all the time. I mean, I've had Her Story Success for a couple years and I'm still like, what if no one else ever purchases anything from Her Story Success? What if this completely fails? I have to let go of all of my people and I have to shut down my business. And I was like, oh my gosh, that would be the worst thing. He's like, but what would you actually do? And I was like, I would probably call Insperity and ask if I could have my job back. And he's like, do you think they would hire you? I was like, in a second, right? Like I can go get another job. I know that I am marketable in those things. So when you said that, I loved that. And I think that's something that, I know people call you all the time asking for mentorship and guidance and all the time. And that's one thing that I always say is like, if you're thinking about trying something, truly what is the worst thing that could happen? Play that out and make a decision if you can do that or not. And I love too that you said, it's not like you're trying things that you don't think that you'll be good at. That's one thing Richard Branson would always say is like, I look like I'm this super risky person. He's like, but I am taking like educated risks, right? Like calculated risk. This isn't like I'm not jumping off and seeing if I can actually like, build a plane while I fall down. It's, and I feel like that's something that you do as well. It's like, yeah, you might not have had, anything to do with co-working spaces previously, but you had Google and you saw some things that you're like, oh, I think that I can do that too. So let's talk about starting Collective 615, but I want to wrap up on Kathy Thomas Photography because I don't think people understand your level yet. And I want you to brag for just a second because you're so cool. Can you, I don't know how much you can share, but like, can you share?
My wedding couple would love to hear you say that because they hired me.
Well, no, I have seen your weddings and I'm like, oh, good Lord. But like, tell us some of the cool places that you have shot and like you've been, like you said, global and you just kind of brushed past that. But truly, like, where are some of these places that you, with no formal education, self-taught photographer, where have you been hired to go? And if you can tell anybody that's hired you.
I love architecture. So I play architecture into a lot of my work because I feel like when a client hires me either commercially or for a wedding or for a family and they pick an environment to stage themselves in, that environment is important to them. So I want that environment to play into their imagery, but I don't want it to be the forefront of their imagery. So I think in my style, it has welcomed me into a broad spectrum of clientele because I play into it, but I make them the important factor. That makes sense? So, to brag, some of the amazing places I've been in, I can't say one's better than the other, but I did get to spend a week in Italy the year before last on the Amalfi Coast. I flew out to Italy solo for that. And so that was incredible. And there's so many reasons behind it. Like, she found me on Instagram from a post where she wore the Inez DeSanto runway finale gown. It's unbelievable. I shot that runway finale gown going down with Inez standing beside me. So this was very personal to me. So when she posted it was going to be her wedding dress, I was like, dear, Inez had posted, I said, dear God, please send me a bride that wears this dress. And the bride messaged me and said, your prayers have been answered. Please call me.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Power of Instagram and tagging and posting.
Which is
awesome.
amazing. And she's actually the reason I'll be back in Italy next year with a referral from her doing a wedding on the Amalfi Coast. So that was amazing. I mean, you guys, one of a friend I grew up with, we weren't really friendly in high school or middle school, but we've known each other that long, hired me in our adult life to shoot her wedding on houseboats in like the Grand Canyon. And so we had a hike up to the top of things. Yeah. So really cool stories. Her second marriage, she had battled breast cancer, like just really, really cool things. God, where you put me on the spot now. I'm like, I've been to so many cool places that like, I mean, with Jamaica, we go to GoldenEye, which is where Ian Fleming wrote the 007 series. I love that. I love shooting in his garden. I think there's just so much history and story in his bedroom with the windows, like his desk where he actually drafted and typed and wrote on is where I usually shoot their couples like details. And it's just kind of a lot of history and story to that.
Cool.
Yeah. And Chris Blackwell owns it now, which is like, you know, Amy Winehouse's agent and everything, and Bob Marley and stuff. So that's really intriguing to me.
But
I've been to Ireland and shot in a destructed castle, which is really, really amazing. And I actually got to shoot both of those sisters' weddings. One was in their dad, so they have two dad's backyard. And then the next year I got to go to Ireland with their entire family. And they invited my husband to come, which was really incredible.
So amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
so
and I love that.
I've been to some great places, and I've been lucky enough to shoot people like Catherine McVie, Kristen Chenoweth. Yeah. John Legend.
I love Kristen Chenoweth.
Incredible. I love Kristen Chenoweth too. Her and I like bonded. She's incredible. She's a really, really incredible person. We've got to shoot Martha Stewart.
Wow.
Jenna Bush. It's so funny. Her book's right here. Actually, I got that day of our luncheon. Who else? Josh Groban.
Fun.
Rascal Flatts.
Are these all weddings or just different things?
These are all like either private concert series. Dierks Bentley, which is kind of cool. Our kids go to school together. Who else? And then I have like a lot of just really great, majority of my clients are everybody like me and you. Like they're not, I'm fortunate enough to have some celebrity or professional athletes. I have, some of my proudest moments are having professional athletes that hire me 2 to 3 times a year. Ricky Weeks, his family hires me a couple times a year and has for the last 4 years. And I love that they trust me to come into their home and they trust me with their family. I don't share a lot of it because I feel like they're so in the public eye that is their privilege and their right to share. I don't have non-disclosures, but I just respect that. Captain of the Magic, his wife and their kids, so stuff like that. And I just have a lot of respect for I believe I don't need to show that work to gain work. And sometimes I'm really excited to share it because I'm just genuinely starstruck excited. Yeah. But I feel like there's also a respect level. So thank you. I love that. I love what I do. And so that I think some people are confused. So that is my full-time career and I'm full-time at it today and I run Collective, but as a solo owner.
Right. So that's interesting. So Kathy Thomas Photography is how you make your money and Collective 615 is maybe where you want to leave, where you fill your heart up and where you want to leave your legacy. But I love that. You love your full-time job. It is your own thing. And you started your own side hustle while doing your own job. So I think sometimes what gets women stuck that come to me and talk to me is just that there's so much unsurety and doubt of themselves. And I love what you've done is you started your own company and then you saw another void in the marketplace and said, this is something that I'm personally passionate about, so I want to do something about it. So talk to me about starting Collective 615. So you've already got Kathy Thomas Photography. Obviously, you're doing very well for yourself. Like you said, you sustained your lifestyle, and that includes sending your daughter to private school. But what made you decide to take a larger risk and starting self-funding and starting Collective 615, a beautiful co-working space for women? What did that process of getting started and like actually making it come to fruition look like?
I had moved into a co-working space. It wasn't right for my brand, but it was a great address. A Hillsborough Village area. It was a great address. It wasn't right for my brand. I slowly was like, okay, this place isn't reflective of me.
Mm-hmm.
I got it for the zip code and area code. I will not lie. Because I was like, I'm new to the market, but it looks like I have a place here and it was cheap and everything. Then I moved into a creative space, and I'm not one to move. In the entire time I was in Florida, I had 2 offices.
Oh, wow.
I moved into a creative space, which was amazing. And I met some of the most beautiful individuals who are running businesses and hustling and had beautiful business plans. But again, it was so creative. It definitely didn't reflect my clientele or my brand. And I was like, something's got to give. So I moved into like your typical big box, mega co-working spaces. And I loved it. I was like, this is brilliant. Like, talk about having a mecca of talent and drive and peer groups and energy around you. But over time, I started seeing some loopholes in it. And a lot was, I thought, it's not cheap, first of all, but I love the energy and I love the model. And as I worked in these for a year here in Nashville, they were dominated by men.
Yes.
And I was like, this is so interesting. And I've never been like I'm not a men hater. My husband is my biggest cheerleader. My male clientele is some of my biggest reason my business thrives. My accountant's a man, like everything. It was more that I thought, wow, these are really beautiful spaces. They're very masculine and like they're very heavy male makeup. But the small things started getting to me. So it was like the expensive parking and then like coming out of the elevator building to eat downtown, $25 for lunch, like all these things. And I thought, man, but this leaves a big void for like the starter business. Or the woman who's working from home and her company's only giving her like $200 allowance to do her office. So maybe she's really decorated up a room in her house, but honestly, she's still mixing her workspace and her home space. And I just think that's wrong. So as I was spending time in this, I was watching people come in and do their tours because I was always in the common space. Mm-hmm. And I never once saw a man come in and do a tour in all my time, never once. And I was like, but yet the population of the members was dominated by men. And it hit me one night. We did a big networking event. And it was like after hours, they did like wine and beer. And we're all standing around and there was 56 of us because we had to play a game. And 6 were women.
And you saw all those women coming for tours, but people not signing up.
Yes.
Huh.
And then I thought, okay,
looking at.
I, as a woman who like, I see all the things that would turn them off: the expensive parking, the no accessibility to food, to fitness, to anything, you know what I mean? Things that would make their life easier. The price is a little steep for some and not for others. And I had always kind of dreamed of having a place like Easton Market, which is where my business was in Orlando. And so I was like, you know what? I need to make a space for women who are having this challenge. And I need to make it affordable, and I need to make it so great that like they would feel really proud to run their business out of that space.
So why start it yourself and take on all that risk and the scary part and the hard part? Why do it yourself instead of bringing in more people? What was it that you believed in that made you say, I want to do this for me? And when you already had a business, you already had a successful, thriving business, what was the and instead of the or?
I mean, it was tough. So I had a lot of investors step up a lot. And I want to thank all of you because a lot of them were my friends that were willing to invest in me 100%, split it. And they really raised their hand and was like, I want to invest in this. Like, I believe in you and I believe in this model. I think I believed in it, but I wasn't 100% sure it would work. And I was not willing to put people's finances or reputation on the line if it didn't work. So there's that fear, and that crippled me. Like the idea, like if I fail, I own it. It is me. It will suck, but it is me. And I will figure out a way to get on the other side of it. If it's other people's integrity, belief, finances, I didn't know how I would be able to recover that emotionally, mentally, like really like crippling effect I think it would have on me. So as I was talking to friends, and you guys all know who you are, and I was like, oh my goodness, it means so much to me. Like you would front this and you do this and you do that. I just thought I need to do this one on me. And it wasn't about, I mean, there is a day I will obviously make a financial, advancement because of it, but it's nowhere in the near future, which I'm completely okay with. This is long-term for me. So that was really hard. And it's still hard today, I will say, because I think we could grow faster. I think we could grow better. We could have employees. And then obviously no one could have known the fate of a global pandemic. And in the pandemic, I reached out to a lot of solo owned, or actually they even had investors too, female owned co-working spaces across the country. And a lot of them were closing. And they're like, I have to close. A lot of them had investors. And they were like, we brought on 5 employees. We did this, and we just can't sustain. And I was like, I will work as much as I have to for that not to be the case. And I thought, I'm so glad I didn't do that. But I mean, there will be a day I need to, because I do want to grow the model. It's needed to be grown. So it was scary. I was brave enough. I did crowdfund $65,000 of the build out, which was great. And then we got a sponsorship. So West Business Interiors came in with a huge sponsorship for our furniture. And then National Office Furniture, which is their partner, came in and did all custom office furniture for me. So everything is blush pink, crushed velvet fabrics. I wanted it to be really girly, but on a luxury. I wanted it to be almost like an office speakeasy, where it was like rich in color, textures, leathers, everything's black. There's not a touch of wood in the entire space. That was very key to me, except for the ceiling, that nothing could be wood. It all had to be so feminine that any woman would be proud to bring their client to it and say, this is my office space. This reflects me as a woman, and this is who we are. And we are as equally as deserving as the next person to have a space that 100% speaks to us. And so the functionality was very big. Like our kitchen is very large, and that's not to downplay. That's a place where women belong. But women create some of the best ideas in a kitchen, over a drink, over food. So our kitchen's large. We have nitro brew on tap now. We have wine, beer, coolers. You could store your own stuff. We have a 12-foot island for catering, telephone booth rooms, a private room for if you have to breast pump, because I had to do it in an office with a camera above my head for a long time. And, breakout rooms that are complimentary, so that way, if you're starting your business, you can meet with your clients without having to rent a room. Big conference rooms that are really beautiful that you would just be proud to bring an entire team into. So all of those things were really important to kind of give back to women what they deserve, because already starting your own business is bold enough. And I just really believe that if your business should reflect your brand, and your home is not that.
Oh, I love that. And it's a beautiful space to do branding photos. Just saying.
It
I may have
is.
had
Yes.
mine done
I know.
there.
You did your branding session there.
Twice.
It is.
Yes.
I mean, we've been lucky to have a lot of celebrities have shot in there for record cover albums. For Kina was in there yesterday. She's running right now for office. So a lot of people come in there because it's so beautiful and it has that girl power.
Yeah.
But it's also really elegant. And it's furniture you can't get anywhere else. Like no one else is doing that kind of custom office furniture. So it was important for me too that like lumbar support, leg support, like I wanted you to feel
all
like
of that's thought
in
through.
the office, not in your home, but in an office building. I wanted you to feel that empowerment of this is my office. And I let I let the members treat it like it's their office. I want them to feel like it is their own.
Yeah. I love it. I did notice the last time I was in there, which I don't know why I just noticed this, that the tables that I sit at are whiteboards and you have dry erase markers. I was like, that's kind of smart. So anyway, I think you just thought of like all the little things. So I want to take a few minutes and talk a little bit about just you as a person, as you've done this, because you have an awesome husband and super cool little daughter, Stella, who's just going to run the world one day. So when I see you as a woman, right? You're a business owner, you're a mom, you're a wife, but you're a woman. What are the things that are important to you? Because I know one of the things we talked about is like, your hustle. I want to give you a chance to explain like kind of why you work the way that you do and what hustle means to you and what that looks like and unapologetically, right? Like, yes, you are a mom and you love having your daughter, but you really love your work. And so I want to give you a chance to talk about like what does hustle look like for you in relation to how you also keep a good marriage and a good relationship with your daughter. Because you can have both. It's not going to look perfect, but you really can. And I wanted to give you a chance to kind of talk about that.
If you start comparing yourself to people you see in social media and even your friends who are full-time moms, like I have friends who are full-time moms. I have a friend, Simone, like she is crushing it as the full-time mom. Like she deserves like a $250,000 a year salary. She is crushing it. That is her role. And I've never seen someone do it as well as she does. And I always look at her and think, wow, I should be really envious that I can't be that mom. But instead I'm like, that's her business model. Like that is her role.
Yes.
And so mine is the juggling game. It is trying to be the best wife I can be. It is being the mom that I have had to settle into, that this is the mom I am. And I need to find comfort in that. Like I am not a DIY mom. I am not pulling up Pinterest. I am not, I am Amazon priming it. I am scheduling a 20-minute timer on Amazon or on Alexa and being like 20 minutes. And I'm like into the Barbies and I'm doing Barbies for 20 minutes. And when that alarm goes off, I'm like, I'm out, and I am that mom, you know what I mean? And I can't say I'm always present because of that, but I've just had to find a lot of forgiveness in myself and be like, this is my journey. And it might not look like other people's. And oftentimes I am envious, but I also try to just really look at it and be like, well, what a blessing that like I can choose to be the person that picks my daughter from school every day. And that is a choice. Sometimes it's hard for me to do it because I can't break away from my business, but it is a choice for me. I love that I can go to every activity at school, and that is a choice for me to be able to be there. And that's how I show up as a parent. It doesn't mean we sit down to dinner every night. Like I will not, like oftentimes it's like reheatable mac and cheese, a chicken breast from yesterday. Like, there you go. But I do know that I wanted her to be able to see, like, so I had her when I was working for Louis Vuitton, and I thought I worked a lot then because I loved what I did. And I was so nervous that she would see me working really hard for someone else, and someday I would not be happy with that. And I didn't think that was okay. So I thought, at least if she sees me working that hard, there will be something that I love, like I have a burning, dying passion for. She will see me touching and or changing others' lives. And that was important for me, is for my daughter to be able to look at my mom and be like, she's a badass, and she's playing by her own rule book. And she's not perfect, but I'm really proud of her. So that was really, really important.
I love that. What do you think are some of the things that she is learning? I mean, I've seen her in Collective 615. That's how I've gotten to know her. What do you think is a gift that she gets out of this? Because she is getting to meet a lot of other women, I mean, she's getting to see things that other little girls don't get to see. She's getting to meet women and see things and experience things that other little girls aren't getting to do, And so, I mean, do you see that as a gift that you're giving her through this lifestyle also?
Yes. I mean, I don't think that she will grow up ever thinking she has to rely on anyone else for her dreams to come true.
Oh, amen.
Yeah. That's like the biggest thing for me. So like opening Collective, she kept on saying, oh, well, is this my floor, Mom? I'm going to have kids camps. I'm going to do all this. And I would have let that come to fruition for her. Hence, if we hadn't shut down to a global pandemic. But she also, like, I still remember this. She was with me through everything. Like when we were picking out fabrics, and majority of the people I was meeting with were men. And she saw me being like, no, I want this glass. No, I need you to come back in and redesign my kitchen. No, that's not where I want this. And she watched Mom boss up at every level, even if it wasn't in my wheelhouse. With contractors, there's things like I'm going to do like a whole training on this one day of like how, like I got our build out contract down by $100,000.
What?
Yeah. I was like, this won't work for me. You got to adjust this. I want a new bid on this. We're removing this. I'll subcontract this to somebody else. This, and this. I was like, I will not pay these prices.
Wow. Yeah. I can't wait to take that class.
Yeah. And it was, and it was just, obviously, I mean, I didn't have the money. So I didn't have a choice. Mine was, this has to be different because I don't have a choice. And it's nice to have someone riding shotgun, your spouse, whether wife or husband, like to have someone riding shotgun is so powerful. And I hope every woman out there chasing their dreams to start a business has that cheerleader beside them. And if they don't, they should reevaluate that. That's my honest opinion. When you have that person, it's just, the journey is so much more grand. The struggles are still there, but it's just so much better to have someone riding shotgun. And it doesn't mean they have to be in your business. I mean, my husband literally would probably show up and be like, oh, I didn't know you were going to make this place all pink. Really, I've had swatches all over the house. You know what I mean? Like, he's not plugged into my business, but he's back there being my biggest cheerleader. So one is really be plugged into your why. And my why is really, truly, I've said it, I think, since I was like 18 in any interview, if you've heard it, I want to leave this earth and I want to know I made a change in one person's life for the positive. So I'm hoping I've actually already done that, but like now if I could collect more of those, like maybe that's self-gratifying or something, but that just gives me such a grateful heart to make someone's life better that has nothing to do with mine. So plug into your why. And then I think number 2 is entrepreneurship is not for the lazy or the weak at heart. So don't put yourself in oodles and gobbles of debt. Don't think you have to go up front and buy all the best to make yourself look good. You can start out, people will actually be attracted to you more if you start out very grassroots and are like, but I'm building. And I think it's too easy for people to get wrapped up into, I have to look like that. I have to be that. And that will come. That is part of the journey. But if you put yourself into a predicament where you cannot stand on your own 2 feet, it will be very hard to climb out of there. So I think that's the 2 things is like, not be afraid to grow, be real with yourself, have a plan. But at some point, don't look for perfections, just run after it. Like, I'm still figuring stuff out along the way. So I think those are my 2 biggest things is like really be plugged into your why and really be steady fast, not be afraid of the hustle. And a lot of people hate that term. For me, hustle is figuring it out when you're not equipped with all the tools or the know-how. That is the hustle.
Ooh.
But Google it.
I can get on that definition.
Put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Ask for help. Do the research. That is the hustle. The hustle isn't about your client. The hustle is about the work you have to put in, whether it's at 3 a.m., 6 a.m., at lunch. If you have a full-time career and you're doing this on your lunch break, something Gary Vee always says, give yourself 2 years to really work it. Like, your friends are going to forget who you are, bury yourself, because on the end of those 2 years, you'll be exactly where you want to be. Don't jump in between and be sporadic with it. Hunker down and put your head down and just chase that dream really hard and do that hustle time. You won't regret it. But again, it's not for the weak at heart.
Where can people find you? And then how do you define success today?
So you find us at 2 places. So Collective is at Collective 615 on all outlets. Kathy Thomas Photography is Kathy Thomas Photo on Instagram, Kathy Thomas Photography everywhere else, kathythomas.com. And then how do I define success? I mean, I talk about this a lot, but I really feel like success is when you're at peace with the person that's looking back at you in the mirror.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I think when you can look at that person in the mirror and say, I'm trying, I'm putting my all out there. I have a grateful heart. I'm allowing myself grace and pause. I think that's the biggest one. And a lot of forgiveness. You're going to have to learn in your business to forgive yourself a lot. You can't be perfect at everything.
Do you still have sleepless nights?
Absolutely. I want more of me. Like, I want to do this for my members. I want to do this for my members. I want to bring this person in. I want to educate them. I want to train them. And I want to do everything. And I just have to realize it's not possible. So I have to start to like really weed through what I can really deliver on. And that's a hard thing as a pleaser and someone who likes to serve others, is what can I realistically deliver on? And I still struggle with that every single day. And the saying yes with intention. A lot of people say I need to learn how to say no. I'm like a half full cup person. So I'm like, how do I just continue to say yes with intention, and that will get rid of the no? But that's a big one for me. Yes, lots of sleepless nights.
Well, I'm so grateful to have met you, to work alongside you at your beautiful space. And I look forward to our future things that we're going to do together, because I know our brands align so much. We've known that since we met each other.
It's just the beginning, right? I feel like every day is just the beginning.
It is. Today's nonprofit spotlight is for an organization that I care deeply about, the YWCA. I served on the junior board for the YWCA of Nashville and Middle Tennessee because I love their mission of eliminating racism, standing up for social justice, and empowering women. The YWCA is one of the oldest and largest women's organizations in the nation, serving over 2 million women, girls, and their families. You can learn more about how to get involved with your local chapter at ywca.org. Thanks for joining me. To subscribe, click the circular icon, and to watch the latest episode, click the video on the right. If you listen to podcasts, check out Her Story of Success on your favorite podcast platform. See you next time.